Would I be the asshole for re-donating Christmas gifts given to my child? New account because I haven't been on here in a while and cannot remember my old login info. We usually give my kid about 5 Christmas gifts, and each relative household, grandparents, aunt, uncle, etc., will give 1, 2 gifts to my kid each. A somewhat more distant relative, not related by blood, don't see them very often, sent 5 larger toy gifts and a few books and smaller gifts for my child. This was a big surprise, and I was a little overwhelmed because it's already a task each year to make room for the new toys, and this just felt excessive. This relative also did the same for another child in the family that she barely knows. I don't believe she has met the child because this relative is connected to the family through my brother. I, of course, appreciate so much my child being considered and the sweet thought. I found out after opening all the gifts that the gifts this person has given to the children in our family, as well as a bunch of other children in her family, are from a local toy drive for children whose parents cannot afford much for Christmas. This relative is probably more on the low-income side, but has a steady job. We are more upper middle class. Definitely not the target recipient for toys donated to the drive. I would not have felt too bad if she took 1 toy from the drive to give to our kid, but it really just feels like so much. I feel terrible that maybe these toys could have gone to a kid who needed them. It sounds like the relative took about 40-ish toys for kids she knows. I'm thinking of re-donating them in the morning if I can find a place to do so, but worry this is ungrateful and rude. But I also just feel bad keeping them when we don't need them and others might. WIBTA if I did? Edit to update. I think the number was closer to 25 items after hearing more from others. Thank you all for input. Some would like me to address her, but my brother is closer to her age and closer to her, so I think I will just mention it to him and let him address it if he sees fit. The lady recently lost her cat in an accident, so I would really struggle to say anything myself. The door. It started with a Craigslist ad. Room for rent $400 month, utilities included, no pets, no loud noises after 10 p.m. I was desperate. My job barely covered my bills, and I couldn't stomach another month of sleeping in my car. The place seemed perfect, too perfect, honestly. A fully furnished room in a nice neighborhood for $400. I should have questioned it more, but desperation has a way of silencing your instincts. The landlord, Mr. Harlan, was a wiry old man with a stooped posture and a voice that barely rose above a whisper. When he showed me the house, everything seemed normal, except for one thing: the door at the end of the hallway. It was different from the other doors in the house, thicker, with no handle or visible hinges. A faint scratching noise came from behind it, like branches brushing against glass, even though there were no trees near that side of the house. "What's in there?" I asked, pointing at the door. Mr. Harlan's face darkened. "That's not your concern. The rent is cheap for a reason. Don't go near it, don't touch it, and above all, don't listen to it." I should have walked away right then, but I didn't. I moved in the next day. The first few nights were quiet. The house was eerily silent, but I chalked it up to Mr. Harlan being old and reclusive. The door at the end of the hallway didn't bother me much, until the 4th night. That was the first time I heard the whispering. At first I thought it was Mr. Harlan talking to someone, but when I crept out of my room, I realized it was coming from the strange door. The whispers were soft and rhythmic, like a lullaby sung in a language I didn't understand. I pressed my ear to the door, and for a moment, the whispers stopped. Then, clear as day, I heard my name. Michael. I stumbled back, heart pounding. I convinced myself I was hearing things and went back to bed, but I couldn't sleep. The next morning I asked Mr. Harlan about it. He looked at me with a mix of pity and fear. "I told you not to listen," he said. "That room, it's not empty." I pressed him for answers, but he refused to say more. The whispering continued every night, growing louder and more insistent. By the 7th night, it wasn't just whispers. I started hearing knocks, faint at first, but steadily growing louder. It sounded like someone, or something, was trapped inside, pounding on the door with frantic desperation. "Let me out!" a voice begged one night. It sounded like a woman. The next night, it sounded like a child. "Michael, please," it whimpered. "It's so cold." I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. My days became a haze of paranoia, and my nights were consumed by the whispers, the knocks, and the voices. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I waited until Mr. Harlan left for his weekly grocery trip. Armed with a crowbar, I approached the door, my heart hammering in my chest. The whispers stopped as I got closer, replaced by a low, guttural growl. "Don't," the voice said. It didn't sound human anymore. I hesitated, but something inside me, curiosity, stupidity, or a mix of both, drove me to wedge the crowbar into the edge of the door and pry it open. The moment the door cracked open, the lights in the house flickered and went out. A blast of freezing air hit me, carrying with it a foul stench like rotting meat. Inside the room, there was nothing but darkness, not just the absence of light, but a suffocating, living void that seemed to reach out for me. And then I saw them. Eyes. Dozens of them, red and unblinking, staring at me from the darkness. A hand shot out of the void, long and skeletal, its fingers impossibly long and sharp. It grabbed my wrist, its touch ice cold and burning at the same time. "Thank you," the voice said, no longer pleading but triumphant. I screamed and pulled away, slamming the door shut with every ounce of strength I had. The whispers immediately started again, louder and more chaotic, like 1,000 voices screaming in unison. Mr. Harlan found me huddled in a corner of the living room when he got back. He didn't say anything, just helped me up and handed me a glass of water. "I told you not to listen," he said quietly. I moved out that night, leaving behind all my belongings. A week later, I drove past the house. The windows were boarded up, and a "for sale" sign was staked in the yard. I never went back. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone in my new apartment, I hear faint whispers coming from the closet, and they know my name. The shadow in the hallway. Ava had always loved living in her grandmother's old house, nestled deep in the woods. Its creaky floors and worn wallpaper carried the charm of a bygone era, but the house came with one unshakable rule: never open the hallway door at night. The door in question was an old, splintering wooden slab at the end of a narrow corridor on the second floor. No one explained why the rule existed, but her grandmother had been firm about it since Ava was a child. Now, as an adult staying there during the winter, she brushed off the warning as a superstitious relic. One night, as snow blanketed the forest outside, Ava sat in the living room reading. The wind howled, making the house groan. Then she heard it, a soft, deliberate creak from upstairs. She froze, listening intently. Another creak, closer this time. It sounded like footsteps. Ava grabbed her flashlight and cautiously ascended the stairs. The air grew colder as she approached the top. Her eyes darted to the hallway door. It was slightly ajar. Her heart pounded. She knew she had locked it earlier. As she moved closer, she noticed a shadow shifting on the floor, cast from the faint moonlight spilling through a nearby window. But it wasn't her shadow. It was too tall, too thin. The door creaked wider, revealing nothing but darkness beyond. She should have turned back, but curiosity gripped her. She pushed the door open with trembling hands and shone her flashlight inside. The beam cut through the void, revealing a set of steep, narrow stairs leading down into what should have been the attic. The shadow moved, darting out of sight. Ava's breath hitched. "Hello?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. No reply. Against her better judgment, she stepped inside. The air smelled damp and metallic, the faint sound of dripping water echoing from below. She descended slowly, each step more nerve-wracking than the last. At the bottom of the stairs was a small, windowless room. The walls were covered in deep gouges, as if something with claws had tried to claw its way out. In the center of the room was an old, broken mirror, its surface darkened and warped. Her flashlight flickered. Panic rose in her chest. She turned to leave, but the stairs were gone. Behind her, the mirror began to hum, emitting a low, bone-chilling sound. She turned back toward it, and her reflection stared at her, except it wasn't her. The thing in the mirror had her face but grinned with jagged teeth and black, soulless eyes. The reflection reached out, its hand breaching the mirror's surface. Ava screamed as the thing grabbed her wrist and yanked her forward. Her flashlight clattered to the ground, spinning wildly before the bulb shattered, plunging the room into darkness. The next morning, the door was shut and locked again, just as it always had been. But Ava was gone. And now, if you listen closely at night, you can hear soft, deliberate footsteps behind the hallway door, waiting for someone else to open it. I am an alien spy, and my people plan to invade Earth soon. Now I know what you might be thinking reading this. Why would any spy, even an alien, warn the very society they are planning to invade of what is coming? Well, the answer is simple. There is nothing humanity can do to stop us. I am part of a very advanced alien race. You have never heard of us, nor will you find traces of our existence in any of your history books, lore, or even conspiracy theories. We do not make open contact with the worlds we plan to invade, and we do not communicate with less advanced worlds. We have a specific strategy set up for each world we invade, and thus far hundreds of worlds has fallen to our empire. We are a very old species, and we are highly advanced. Now that is beside the point. What I am about to tell you is not to warn humanity of what is coming, so humanity can prepare to fight off the invasion. There is nothing humanity can do to stop us. Our fleets are already heading to Earth, and our technology is superior to human technology by more than 1,000,000 years. We have known about humanity for almost 2,000 Earth years. We have been watching you, studying you, and manipulating humanity all this time. We have kept you divided in every way to make sure that your species' advancements are slow, to make sure that your world doesn't unite and your people will fight among themselves over the most silly and dumb things, and we have been very successful at it. Our spies have infiltrated every part of your society, from the highest echelons of power, your militaries and economic systems, right down to the man or woman on the street, and there is no way you can tell who we are. We don't look like you at all, but I will tell you soon what we really look like. But we have the technology to transfer our consciousness into a human brain, even though the human brain is less evolved than ours, which limits how much or our consciousness we can transfer. But that is why our bodies remain in a stasis unit with most of our memories kept intact for when our consciousness will be transferred back to our bodies after the invasion. There is not a single military, secret agency, or government on your planet that our spies have not infiltrated. We are everywhere, and we basically control your world. You think that you have free will, but we manipulate you in subtle ways. We decide what you like and don't like, who you support and who you criticize. Your systems, your technology, your communication systems are all controlled by us. Now, you may probably wonder how we transfer our consciousness into a human without anyone knowing. That is very easy. We have ships and stations in your solar system. We abduct humans that we choose carefully and take them to our ships where we go through the procedure. The human we chose is technically dead in every way as their consciousness has been erased. We do keep some of their memories so that the agent can blend in seamlessly without raising suspicion. I myself have been placed in your general society to watch and study the people on the ground. Each agent has their mission and objectives. Mine is to see how the everyday human lives and thinks, and to decide whether we should enslave all of you after our invasion or terminate. My personal decision has been made after careful consideration, and it was not an easy decision, but it is impossible to coexist with humanity. Humanity lies, cheats, steal, and murder. Therefore, we will enslave most of you. Those who show signs of violence will not survive the initial invasion. Your species is primitive and violent. We didn't have to do much to divide you and slow down your technological progress. In fact, you did it all yourself. Now to tell you what we look like. Well, to a human, we would be the stuff of nightmares. We are not draconian. They are to mainstream and unorganized, and honestly, you humans overglorify them. We are a bit taller than humans, and we do have scales similar to a lizard. Our scales are already like armor. Your weapons cannot penetrate it. Our hands end in sharp claws, and we do have long tails. Each one of us has 2 pairs of eyes, and instead of hair, we have spikes. We are faster and stronger than a human. We have developed body armor that can withstand blasts from your most powerful missiles. We have 10,000 ships in our invasion fleet that is approaching Earth. Each ship carries 1,000 fighters. And 100,000 of our people. This will not be a battle, it will be a slaughter. Now you wonder why we have already got ships here, but our fleet is taking longer to arrive. Our smaller ships are faster than our invasion ships due to their size differences. But we also needed you to terraform Earth to create the ideal conditions for us to thrive in. Your pollution and the global climate change has created the perfect conditions conducive for us to thrive in. Now this is what is going to happen. Our ships will remain cloaked once they arrive. They will park in high orbit in strategic positions, and once everything is in place, we are going to strike. This will be an organized and coordinated strike. Our fighters will hit every airport and airfield on your planet at the exact same time, while others will destroy your seaports and military bases, missile silos and nuclear weapons facilities, and we did not forget about your military vessels and submarines at sea. They will be targeted and destroyed at the exact same time. We will take over your satellites and communication systems, and no human will be able to use any electronic device or communicate using technology, as our viruses will immediately block all human communications and change your codes to our language. That is when the real invasion will begin. Our landers will drop soldiers in your cities and most populated areas, and they will immediately start to attack. That way your ground troops will be helpless to defend against us, as they will not risk putting civilians in danger. But we do not follow the same protocol. As a human, you do not care to wipe our rats, and we are the same. Our soldiers will be dropped, and they will immediately start to call humans. The humans who survive the invasion will then be implanted with control chips in their brains, and they will each receive a control collar, which will allow the slave masters to control your people fully. Your species will be dumbed down to where you were intellectual during your Stone Ages. We do not need smart slaves. We do not need slaves who can read and write or even talk. We need slaves to serve us through hard labor and slaves who can breed to keep the species going. There will be humans whose bodies will reject our technology, we are aware of that. Those will be allowed to live, but they will experience the worst part of slavery. The chips we implant in your brains will allow your mind to be aware as you are now, but you will be trapped in your mind. You will experience everything, but your body will be on autopilot. You will know what is happening and what you are doing, but you won't be able to do anything about it or resist. Those whose bodies rejects the implants will be subjected to our prisons and labs. They will be used by our scientists, and they will be kept in high-tech prisons where they will be restrained by metallic tentacles, kept suspended in the air, held in place by the ankles and wrists. Just like humanity doesn't give their pets clothing, we will strip our human slaves naked. You will serve our people through hard labor or during your time in our prisons. The reason I am telling you this now is because our fleet will be arriving soon. I am not telling you so you can prepare to defend, as we know your technology, we know what humanity is capable of, and there is absolutely nothing your species can do to stop us. But I want you to take this time and make the most of your time as a species, make peace with those you care about, as once we take Earth. You will not even be able to talk to them or hug them. Once we implant the chips, you will most likely be separated and moved to separate camps depending on your age and physical skill set.